Hi Ritika, how are you?
I'm doing good. Good to see you, Amit.
Thank you so much for joining, and I can see your high energy. So, Ritika, just wanted to understand about your journey as an entrepreneur, how you started, and what made you to start and start from print media to digital media, and now then again as a business owner. So, just wanted to learn about it.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me here. And entrepreneurship, I mean, in itself is a story for everybody, as you know, right? My story is a lot more same in terms of things that we do. I mean, we're always on a pot boiler, and every day is a learning. So from where it started is. Again, very basic and simple, is to just like any corporate worker. When I got into my first job, I used to often think that someday I would do something of my own. So that fire was always inside, and in fact, it started long back when I was still in my post graduation. I used to work as a part time content writer. So I used to always look at the boss's chair and think that someday I'll have that fancy life. It looked very fancy, of course, and I was very young at that stage. However, with time, I also developed my love, my passion for journalism. And I did pretty well. I cleared the entrances, and I got motivated to join in there. But what do we do with the entrepreneurial streak? So I could always test out the ideas of getting into entrepreneurship, but then establishing a printing house was something way beyond I could imagine, or it could fulfill my dream of becoming an entrepreneur, right? So that is where I had this chance to compare and reflect back on how do I transition from print journalism to digital. So it was back in the year, I think 2012 or 11, where I had just started my career as a journalist, and then in about 2 years I could see digital marketing as an emerging field. I used to often oscillate between the ideas of making that switch. I could see for options where, print could ever be digitalized. However, at that time, it was hard to imagine, while you see that happening now, right? In fact, all the printing houses are almost like shut down and they have moved to digital, right? But then it was not easy for everybody to think that. And initially, I kept on testing that possibility, and then I kind of like went with the flow. And it was then in the middle of it, around the year, I think 2015, where I found this chance to, test out my skills around digital content. I was on a break. So that is where, I discovered my interest and my potential in making that switch, where, I wanted to plug these two things, where I was still a writer, but then we always, had those inhibitions, those theories that, print is more creative. You go out in the field, you talk to so many people, your audience is there. And yeah, I mean, exposure levels are higher. Digital is very limited and stuff. So that is why I decided to test it out myself. That was where I made the career switch. And against the ongoing prevailing, preconceived notion that, print is more creative, digital is not, I could rather find out a contrast and discover that content writing on digital was way more creative. There were multiple ways of doing the same content. It was way more measurable, right? That is where my interest started to build. I joined a corporate and I experimented my skills. I measured it. I could actually identify that I can do this. And then my husband being already in IT, so I tried to do a combination of the two things, where digital marketing and IT could go as a combination, and maybe we could create a one-stop solution for our customers, if at all, right? So that was the the initial source behind this. And after that, there were a few more things where entrepreneurship, anyway, as I said, looks very fancy. And right now, after having spent about 6-7 years as an entrepreneur, I see myself completely transformed for the good. But I'm a completely different personality now, and my business also has a completely unique, different personality. So amid all the fancy things and the chaos, I can see some harmony, and I'm glad I did this. And yeah, that's about it. And still trying to make a difference every day.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We wanted to understand how your organization Code Blends is making impact in the market, especially globally. Now you have been traveling a lot, meeting a lot of new customers, and I've seen a lot of your work, that how from the perspective of employer branding, and adding new scenarios or perspective for the B2B marketing. So wanted to understand how Code Blends is adding value.
Right. So, like everybody by now has understood the importance of digital, right? So, and the importance that marketing is no longer a good to have; it's a must have. It's other matter you make a choice. You want to do it yourself, or you want to get it done by somebody, and then the kind of investments you want to make versus the results and the goals that you have, right? So, I mean, when it comes to designing the services and designing the offerings and the experiences through Code Blends, there are certain things that we try and do a lot differently, right from designing the employee culture, which kind of reflects into the work we deliver. So quality is something, it's very measurable, and again, it's a little subjective also. It depends from client to client, but there are certain things which we try and educate our customers with, and that is what actually has helped us make a significant difference with whoever few accounts that we've been working with, but all of them have been with us throughout these years. So one is we help them understand that you need to have a brand personality. So it's not that you're just creating content for the heck of it, and need to have a very clear standpoint, so that your end audience ultimately relates with your brand personality and then starts engaging with it, and that is where conversions happen, and that's where marketing meets its true purpose. And second thing is we help them understand how we make it a lot different from many other agencies, which currently, some of them may be doing excellent, but this is one thing we're proud of here, is that we focus a lot on the goals. And again, we educate our customers by asking them, first of all, what goal they're trying to achieve through marketing, right? So because in the process, when a project begins, if you're lucky enough to get awarded by the project very easily, or maybe faster, so we all jump to the transactional things, right? So this is where we make a huge difference, where we ask them the typical questions, helping them understand what their goals and expectations are versus what budgets they're investing, and then accordingly we work towards it. So everything here is very measurable, big or small, and then we help them evolve. If their needs evolve, then our efforts evolve, of course the budgets evolve, but then they see a difference, and they see visible goal accomplishment. So that makes a difference.
Great. Thank you. So, Ritika, the marketing started with the perspective of acquiring new customer, but nowadays in last few years, if I see, the employer branding has become an essential thing now, and whereof every organization, every company, whether it's domestic or international, they're focusing on this aspect of employer branding to attract new talent. And you have been working a lot on this side. So if you can please share about these two things.
Yeah, sure. So employer branding, as we all know, like, it's, again, as I said, marketing is no longer a good to have, it's a must have. So and I think everybody by now has realized this. Companies of all scale, big or small, need employer branding, because your employees are your first brand ambassadors, right? So whatever you create under employer branding would impact both your customers, both your audiences, which is employees as well as your customers, right? So however, there are some nuances and the nitty-gritties of doing it right. Sometimes as being in the shoes, or being a corporate head, or being the company founder, we have our fundamentals clear. We know what we want to tell. We also know what is the USP, but the how gets missing somewhere. Many of us tend to do it by ourselves, but the real impact may get missing, right? So that is where the need for having, because whatever you can't take a bus and tell everybody, right? Even if you have social media as a channel, there are some mechanic which it's a complete science, right? So some people are trained in this. We're trying to be one of those, and making it again very goal oriented, measurable, and also we're trying to cope with one major emerging market trend, which which is there is an oversupply of content, right? In the age of AI, everybody is generating content by themselves. I'm not just talking about user generated content where a shoot is involved. People still do that, right? And it's actually amazing. So engagements boost with that. But then when there is so much of a supply of content, everybody is doing certain kind of concepts and they're constantly doing it. But how do you ensure a retention, right? So that is where, influence comes into picture. So and we try to ride on that. So it's not just creating a content one time and then just forgetting about it. You have to repurpose it. You have to create the right influence, which has to be thought through at the stage of pre-production, and then a lot of remarketing. So all of this together forms promotions where promotions have to be taken care of at the time of pre-production only, when you're preparing the concepts. Plus the entire the storyline and everything comes from within those organizations which are facing the day-to-day issues, and very interesting topics come from them. So that is where we've been thriving, successfully delivering for some of our customers. So yeah.
I would like to know about your strategies in team building, how CodeBlends defines the culture, how you are attracting and retaining the talent. If you'd like to share some insight about it, Ritika.
Yeah, right. So, Amit, as you know, marketing is a very, it demands a lot of creativity, and at the same time, it needs to be channelized. You need people who are slightly insane if they are into marketing. At least I look at it. That's one of the selection criteria here. But, the insanity also has to be channelized in some way, right? And it has to be made measurable at the same time, right? And then working with Gen Z on top of that, who come with tons of energy, tons of talent and creativity, but at the same time there are other kind of challenges where you need to step into their shoes and speak their language and then take care of their emotional changes, and then you need to adjust, right? So leveraging their best output. So at CodeBlends, at least, especially because we've designed our culture keeping all these things, evidence-based learnings into mind, we've always tried to invest into a culture of comfort. So when I say comfort, that doesn't mean comfort zone. Comfort would mean, I relate comfort to a calm mind, and a calm mind is always a creative mind, right? So we try and invest in some of the biggest strengths of our people. We individually ride on those, and some of them are those who would have joined us as trainees, and we had to completely train them. So which is a story for any small to mid corporate. So as you must have experienced this as well, and some of them have done really well, where if I share example of one of them, we would have probably, we only hired for intent at that point in time, and then allowed them to swim through in the initial honeymoon period. And then when they identify one core skill or the first love, we would invest in that heavily, and then partly investing in all other skills so that they could work with cross-functional team. So, but then, these guys need a lot of recognition, and anyway, recognition everybody needs. So there has to be a harmony between feedback, and the feedback has to be helpful. So that is one thing which I really invest in, and then comfort and care, as I said. So yeah.
Great. So what I can take back is investing in their learning, identifying their unique strength, and really building upon them. That's how you raise your team, right? And you made them accountable. Mm-hmm.
And checking on them often, and then keeping them so motivated. So for example, and then those ideas of recreation and motivation cannot be designed by the leader alone, right? It has to come from within them. So I may think that taking them out for a movie could be a good idea, but they may want to go to a pool, So it's completely different. So we need to constantly design and do a lot of reverse mentoring. And that has really worked for our team, at least. So yeah. And then second thing which I invest in is allowing them a free hand. Again, there are sometimes discipline issues, but allowing them to speak their heart. Also training them on the boundaries, where you draw those professional boundaries. But a marketer, if they cannot laugh out loudly, they cannot, if they do not speak without inhibitions, they cannot grow. So yeah, I have to manage a lot of risk, but then it helps eventually.
Right. So you're empowering your people with creativity, skill development, and really mentoring them in the right direction. That's the way you're nurturing them. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Another
Yeah.
thing,
And then
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Sorry. And then fitness and mental wellness is also one important area.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, it's a very common term these days, but when we say mental wellness, and we really, really check on our people and try to understand if something is bothering them related to work and all that, we have dedicated people to take care of those things. And then, yeah, and fitness is mandatory.
Great,
So
great.
many
Thank
people,
you.
we might have some attrition rate there, but then we have a monthly fitness activity where we all gather and then we get into one activity.
So
And we
you
get a
focus
lot
on
of
the overall
content on.
development.
Oh yes, with this year I think it's become mandatory. So we have a program called Code Blend Fitness, and initially there used to be some people who would drop out, but now everybody has started to be a part of it. So it's working for us. Yeah.
So two more things I wanted to ask about the marketing, Ritika. See, one side AI is emerging, companies are adopting, investing a lot of money on various tools of marketing, video marketing, SEO, and then AEO. You mentioned once, right? And so, what do you see the new trends for marketing, or new changes for marketing in the coming years, right? As in last 3 years, we have seen humongous change. So, what is your take on that?
Yeah, right. So as I mentioned earlier, also during our conversation today, that unlike what we used to have 3 years ago, 2 years ago, in marketing, the dynamics have shifted a little in terms of, okay, your investments remain the same in terms of your time, your costing, and understanding and leveraging the importance of marketing, right, towards achieving your business goals or your employee retention goals, right? They remain the same. It's just that they've shifted from the focus has shifted from production alone to promotions, right? So you're making a major investment. The AI tools have actually added to our capabilities in terms of creativity and content production. It has empowered marketers to deliver faster, and that frees us up to actually invest more in ensuring that our content is getting consumed by the right set of people, and that is how it starts converting eventually, right? So this is one big trend that is coming up, and tailoring your audience. I mean, like paid promotion, until a year ago used to be a luxury, but now it appears to be a must have. So you need to make those investments bigger, small. So that's one. And then even in organics, I mean, this is one tip I would like to share, that start tailoring your audience, because otherwise it gets consumed by people who do not relate with your brand the way your potential customer would have to. And then second is video is one area where so there's a lot of hue and cry also ever since AI has been into picture, not just by the marketing community but also by customers, where some of them would come to us and ask us that, hey, this is the age of AI, how do you make sure that your writer is not using ChatGPT or any other tool for writing a blog or creating a video? So our question to them is, does that really matter to you? How much does that matter to you, and how does that make a difference in a negative way in your marketing, right? As far as if it helps you meet your purpose, then what would be the issue? So then we have a tolerance or an acceptance criteria defined for them, right? So that is one. And at the same time, for those who still look for original content for their own reasons, for them, I think video is one area where you can still maintain a lot of originality, so, and it adds a lot of authenticity in your content. So that's one area where you can so invest heavily on that, and that creates a lot of impact overall. It shows a lot of things, right? Relates with employer branding again, because you show your infrastructure, you show your ways of working, your culture, your people. And the more the how as true it is when it comes to presenting yourself in a user generated content, the easier it is to act. I can't hear you, sorry Amit, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I was on mute. So I'm saying marketing for MSME is still a far-fetched goal, right? So, though the mid-sized companies are adopting, they are establishing their marketing department. They had a physical marketing team. Now they are investing a lot on digital marketing. But how about the MSME? They still feel that marketing is expensive, and they are not going beyond GMB, which is Google My Business, right? What is your message for MSME? Because I feel now the business can't survive if they are not visible in the market to the customers. So how can they make it like apply or maybe start small and use marketing as a tool to attract new customers?
Right. So for those who, I mean, this remains a challenge, a very understandable challenge. Even we ourselves have been through this, right? So a business lives its own journey, and there is always a right time to start a heavy investment in marketing. But until then, as you said, what do we do? So I think consistency is one very important area where you can invest. So if you know that next 3 years, if you're starting a business today, and next 3 years you won't be able to invest a lot or heavily in the marketing or maybe accelerate your promotions, then your brand actually needs an even longer journey to live those initial 9 or 12 months of the journey, which is mandatory for anybody. I mean,
Absolutely,
mandatory.
absolutely.
Saying
Yeah.
this, I'm saying this out of my experience. No matter how much money
Hmm.
you pump, the biggest investor of the world you have, you still have
Hmm.
to live that journey. Your brand has to live that journey, otherwise nobody's going to recall it, right? So it's even more important for them to go slow but go consistently without breaks. So whatever little
Hmm.
time they can invest, you should always have marketing as your component. At least have a digital presence. Otherwise, I mean, you get evaluated basis your digital presence, right? In fact,
Yeah.
again, I'll circle this back to employer branding, that question where, as I said, that, it's a must have now. There
Hmm.
used to be a time when a company's reputation would be, evaluated based on a word of mouth or local popularity or any other way of, references, right? But a big company, even if it is one of the biggest names, a potential employee or even a potential customer would definitely go and check out the reviews.
Hmm.
So there is a
Hmm.
reputation management on the digital channels, and there are so many channels out
It's a
there
must-have
now.
now. Hmm.
Right, it's a must have, right? So you have to really invest
Hmm.
in those things. If you're not writing positive reviews, at least ensure that if there are any negative reviews, you need to mitigate
Hmm.
them. So you can't shut your
Yeah.
eyes and say that, I can't invest in marketing. So maybe the founders have to wear those hats initially.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So last thing, Ritika, I would like to know, message as a women entrepreneur and uh, how you mark balance and and then so that other can really learn from your journey and we can close.
Yeah, so I mean, as I always say, Amit, during our any other conversation, I might have said this before. So if it comes down to writing down the challenges and discussing the problems, I think we can end up writing many books, not just one. So they remain the same, and probably they're very common to most of the women who want to try and get into a business or a leadership position, right? But one clear thing is you need to have a grit, first of all, and yeah, I mean, if you think you can't manage multiple things, then you probably should not try and do it one after another. Finish some of your responsibilities, which probably, like for example, your parenting or anything where your kids grow up a little, then only start. Or if you think that some of the things you can take care of side by side, but every day is a new day and it's always one day at a time. So that is something that I always try and invest in. You have to be your biggest self motivator, because I say this often that you can't pour from an empty cup. So first take care of yourself, and let's not bother about what others think. As far as the people who are dependent on you are taken care of, it's all fine. And why not steal 2 hours for yourself in a day and really really pour yourself well, so that you can spend the rest of the day nicely. So that's one. And then 2 3 things that I have always felt that are needed to keep yourself going in your highest spirits as a woman. So patriarchy still exists, no matter how much some gentlemen like you would also highlight the importance of this. But I think it's also women who themselves are like wired in such a way that if nobody is saying anything to them, they will still start feeling guilty, right? So it's us first, instead of expecting it from other people, or especially maybe the other gender, right? So we have to do away with the guilt on certain things and pick up small things which energize us daily. So doing them without fail, just like walking a few miles and picking up a coffee, even if it looks insane to somebody, we should not bother doing it on a daily basis. And then accepting failures, the fear of messing up, overcoming that. I mean, you don't have to be always 10 on 10 to be called a perfect mom or a super mom. I think all moms are super moms anyway, right? And let's not only talk about motherhood, but in general also women face various kind of issues, right? There are self doubts. So compartmentalizing your tasks because you have 1000 things to deliver in 24 hours, and prioritizing them, and then accepting that on one day you're a good mom, second day you're a good cook, and probably always excellent at work, but you can have your downtime and rise from the ashes again. So keep going and keep patting yourself.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Ritika. That juggling with all the compartments and still making a progress. That's the best way, I think. Thank you so much for really joining today and taking out time and sharing your insight, Ritika. And I'm sure your journey will inspire so many women entrepreneurs, but rather men also. Yeah, thank you so much. Great connecting with
Okay,
you.
thank you for having me here. Bye.